What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We got another episode, a really good episode for you. Before we get started, I got a couple announcements to make. Number one, we are no longer What Are We Missing? Now, we're not in trouble. We're not in trouble. We just decided to make that change because we want to be called the Chosen Podcast, which is actually more of a natural fit. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but we are now called the Chosen Podcast. So we do that because it fits the brand. You guys already know the Chosen Ones. And now we got the Chosen Podcast. And number three, more to come on this, but we have the Chosen Academy. So we'll talk about that a little later. But without further ado, you always know I got my boy Josh. What's good, bro?
What's happening? Doing all right?
How's it going, bro? You got the baby coming soon. You got the baby shower
Yes,
this week,
sir.
man. What's going
Yes,
on?
sir. Man, wifey trying to get it all together. I'm just sitting in the background, trying to keep storms away.
Yeah, bro. That's how it is. Dang, my voice cracked, but that's how it is, man. Chris been through it. This journey, bro, is really all about the wife, bro, and we just here for the ride and trying to support. Would you agree,
Really
Chris?
is,
That's facts. 100%.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Yep.
I give my wife Brie a hard time a lot, like with our wedding and like with having the baby and stuff. Cause everybody comments, bro. Everybody comments like on your wedding pictures, like, "Oh, the bride is so beautiful." It's like, dang, like
Yep.
we ain't in the
Yep.
picture, like,
Right.
Invisible. Invisible.
you know what I mean?
Man, I
But
know.
yeah, bro,
Leah, she
it's crazy.
getting all these gifts. She's like, oh, I just got this. I just got this. It's I was
All
She's like,
right.
oh, that's good for you. That's
It's like I'm here too. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
I appreciate y'all listening to this episode. We got our boy Chris Warner. So Chris and I and Josh, we all go way back from the GLIAC days.
Hey,
So Canada's very own Chris Warner also
That's
played
right.
at played at Northern Michigan University, way up there. So thanks for joining the show, bro. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. First of all, appreciate you guys having me. Honored to be on the podcast, Chosen Podcast.
Yeah,
oh
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
chosen podcast,
There we go.
technically.
Inaugural. Love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, man. Well, we want to get into really your story, but also touch on um, the mental health side of things because number one, you're in that space. You're educated, got your MSW, so we definitely want to tug on your expertise in
Mhm.
that, and as a coach too. So you work with ninth grade girls, and hopefully moving up the ranks one day. But yeah, so let's talk, bro. Um, let's talk about your current career. Like, what are you doing right now? Um, in the community.
Yeah. So my current career right now, I work at Kent County, um, in our family division in the probation department. So I work with juveniles in the system. Um, and that encompasses a lot. That comes with a lot of responsibilities in terms of just making sure that they are, following expectations, rules. The other side of that is also connecting with resources within the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a holistic approach, not just to the juvenile, but to the family in terms of what they need. If there's any holes that we see that are missing, that we can help connect them with, and just a level of accountability that just hopefully makes them, you know, uh, law-abiding, good citizens, and just overall
Yeah,
good people.
no doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. That's important work, bro. What would you say your favorite part of the job is?
Favorite part for sure is probably the relationships with the youth and clients that we have, that I have. That for sure is the best part. Um,
Yeah,
Anytime you can develop a relationship and they see that it's comes from a genuine spot of like really wanting them to succeed, overall, when you kind of get over um, the hurdles of like trust issues and whatnot, like that's probably the best part of the
Mm-hmm.
job.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about OneFive Basketball Amplified. So just let us know what that is and how that came about.
I really got to thank COVID, we were we were all kind of cooped up in the house, and it's always kind of been something on my heart and like a dream of mine to kind of start. So OneFive Basketball Amplified is a basketball development program in business that I started really over COVID, just kind of having time to sit down and kind of think, what I kind of wanted to do on top of what I'm already doing career wise, really more
Yeah.
so geared towards the passion of, basketball. Um, so really started that um, during COVID, like I said, and then just having access to a gym, also coach freshman girls at Northview.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so having access to the gym and kind of just working with a lot of those girls, and then a couple of families who have reached out that wanted some private training and skill development stuff. Really started really during COVID, like I said. So it's been um, fun so far. Really kind of in its infancy stages.
Mm-hmm.
Really reason, really, like I said, behind it was just to stay connected to the game. We've all played for a long time, and just knowing that the game is constantly evolving. And
Yeah.
just I love to be around kids who are energetic and are willing to learn. And so anything that I can provide or my expertise or is something that I want to do. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
That's
giving
dope,
back in
bro.
every way.
Go ahead, Josh.
I would just say, yeah, that's giving back in every way, using all your gifts.
Yep, no doubt. And we're excited to, partner with you when it comes to the Chosen Academy. We're gonna talk more about that later. But tell me what's your training style like? Like how are you and your coaching style, how do you work with these girls or guys that you work with?
training style, and coaching style. I would say it's kind of similar, but sometimes not. I think it's situational base.
Mm-hmm.
Um, had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Jeff Sasato, who coaches and trains out in California, and we kind of grew up together playing back in Montreal.
Yeah.
Kind of having a conversation to him how those two different and how you kind of have to wear two different hats.
Mm-hmm.
You're really breaking down the game based on skill level, development, and then coaching. You're kind of having a more overview or wider lens of team basketball. So um, I really tried to focus more so individually when it comes to training on fundamentals. I think that's really big, especially for girls basketball, basketball in
Absolutely.
general, but
Mm-hmm.
girls basketball especially, so that they can separate themselves and kind of make
Mm-hmm.
those next level steps within the game to kind of improve overall, or whether it's scoring, passing, you know, shooting's always needed in this game,
Mm-hmm.
like you guys
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
um,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Especially today, man. Especially today. Thank you, Steph Curry and the Warriors. But yeah, like you said, basketball is totally evolving, continues to
mm-hmm.
evolve. Even since we played, even
Mm-hmm.
though it's been about 10 years or so, but that's really not that long ago. And the game is
Mm-hmm.
totally different. So
Yep.
let's take it back, bro. Take it back to the beginning, and talk about your story. Raised in Canada. So let's talk about how it was growing up in the Warner household.
yeah, so like you said, I grew up in Montreal, Canada. Uh, it's not Toronto; it's Montreal, Canada. So I'm about 5 hours east of
Yeah.
Toronto. Grew up in a French-speaking province. Um, and then grew up in really French immersion. So my parents are actually Caribbean immigrants.
Oh
So they
wow.
migrated to Canada
Yep.
in the 70s. Set up shop there. Have had myself. So I grew up in Canada, Montreal. Pretty much, I was there all my life until I got a scholarship to Northern. But
Mm-hmm.
grew up really playing um, different sports. You know what I mean? Hockey is kind of religion over there. So grew up playing street hockey, ice hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which was different. Grew up playing soccer. Really didn't gravitate to basketball until a lot later.
Yeah.
Um, but my parents, being from where they were from, and where we lived, um, I spent a lot of time with a lot of kids in the neighborhood. from different ethnicities, backgrounds, cultures. So sports was always kind of like a common ground, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, to a lot of, whether it was like language barriers or culture barriers, it always kind of made things a lot easier for the introduction process
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
amongst us. So
Hmm.
it was fun growing up. You had to learn French in school. It was like law. So um,
It's a lot.
it was great. It taught me a lot. The city and the people there. It's really a melting pot of a lot of different people coming
Hmm.
from all different types of walks of life or different parts of the world. So
That's
I was
cool.
very
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with being around a lot of different people growing up.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's real
I
cool.
never asked you, do you speak French?
I do, but I
You
but
do? I
yeah, I've lost a lot though. Just being in the
okay.
U.S. now and not using it on
That's
Yeah.
a
crazy.
regular basis. But yeah,
Okay. I never knew
Wow.
that. Never like even thought
yeah,
to ask. That's crazy.
yeah.
Wow. What's you when you said Montreal's not Toronto? I don't know about you, Tram, but my mind whenever I hear somebody is from Canada, it automatically goes to Toronto. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the difference? What's the difference between like the way you said it is like it's a difference between like growing up in New York versus L.A.
Right, right. So I mean, really, Toronto's on the map. Drake put Toronto on the map, really.
Right? Yeah.
Um, but it's
Vince
more. I'd
Carter
say
too.
Toronto. Shout out to Vince. Toronto, great city. Um, but I just think personally that Montreal is more diverse in terms of,
Mm,
like I said, culture, language,
Mhm.
ethnicities. I think you get more of a European feel from Montreal than you do Toronto, just because of the
mm-hmm.
people that live there.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Never heard the explanation. That was a good question, Josh. For real, for real.
Yeah.
You're talking about all the different sports, that you played. So when did you, get serious about hooping?
I don't think I really got serious about hooping until I was probably 14 or 15
Mm.
years of age.
So that's like freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but our school system's also different. I should probably point that out too, that our
Mm.
school systems are different in terms of grade levels.
Mm-hmm.
So elementary school for us is, and this is only for our province, I believe, but elementary school for us is like pre-K, kindergarten, up until grade 6. And then
Okay.
from there, high school for me was 7 to 11. We don't have a grade 12
Oh wow.
like some other places.
Okay.
And after that, you'd go to um, CJEP, which is like equivalent to like a junior prep.
Mm,
And then from there, you go on to university.
Gotcha.
Um, but so you said freshman year, yeah, probably around there. I remember watching, had to been like March Madness tournament around that time, and just like seeing the atmosphere and watching it, and just buzzer beaters all the time. And I was like, man, this is crazy. You know what I mean?
yeah. What year was this, if you remember?
Shoot, this had to be nine to had to been like 98.
98. Okay. Who won that year? Kentucky, probably.
Yes, I think that might have
So
been
crazy thing you
it.
say that, because I remember watching Wayne Turner.
Okay.
Wayne Turner, I believe, was a point guard at Kentucky at that time, and I remember watching him, just how he controlled the pace of the game, and
Mm-hmm.
um, just a real floor general. I was like, man, this guy is super nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and from there, I remember just vividly that I was like, all right, well, I want to try to do that. You know what I mean? So
Mm,
Kentucky was
right.
my dream school after watching Wayne Turner
Mm-hmm.
hoop out
Mm-hmm.
um, and ball out. But it was probably around that time that I was like, all right, I gotta take it seriously.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Um. So you said seventh to 11th, kind of. Does that mean seventh graders are eligible to play like varsity, or is there like how does like the levels at that in high school? Is it like
Yeah, so
freshman
you
JV
you
varsity,
probably
or
would
how
have
how
like,
was it?
yeah, you probably have 3 levels. Um, kind of like a freshman JV varsity type setup. Um, if
Yeah.
you're good enough, I mean, you would be brought up. You know,
Mm,
if you
That's
could play.
wild.
yeah. So when were you? I guess when was your first like exposure to like the highest level varsity?
I believe probably
Okay.
my second year, just getting a little exposure
So that
um,
was like your
to
second
that
year, meaning
level.
like eighth grade, like that for like
So eighth grade, yeah,
yeah.
eighth
Yeah.
grade, yeah,
Wow.
That's
Yeah. The
crazy.
only like seventh or eighth grader I remember like hearing about playing varsity. OJ Mayo. It was like seventh grade. He was at like some private school, I think.
It was like Huntington
Um,
Prep. I still remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
killing, bro, killing. And then yeah, I just thought it was crazy. I'm like seventh grader
yeah.
playing
Hmm.
varsity. Y'all remember Derek Character?
Wow. Yeah. Yep.
Him
Yeah, I
too.
do.
Him too. He was like sixth grade. I read it in
Yeah,
Sports Illustrated for kids. I'm
yeah.
just like, what? Yeah,
That's,
yeah. That's
that
wild.
don't make no sense.
But yeah, bro. Um, so yeah, you said around eighth grade, you started to kind of play at the highest level. Um, so I guess we can go into like the recruiting process. Like, what was that like for you, especially in Canada, and how different is it, than kids going to school here?
Yeah. So, I mean, back in that time, right? So I just remember it being a goal and dream for a lot of Canadians to play U.S. basketball, right, or play at the
Yeah,
college level in the U.S.
right.
At that time, there wasn't a lot of exposure. There had to been there was some exposure coming out of Ontario, Toronto area, not so much Montreal. It was a time where social media wasn't that big, you know,
Mm,
at all. Um, AAU was kind of just starting in Montreal, but there wasn't as many AAU squads as there are now. So exposure wise, there wasn't a lot going on. You know what I mean? Um, I remember, well, my journey was a little different. So, like I said, so grade 11, after I graduated high school, I went to a different school. I went to a school. Um, I actually got cut from that school,
oh wow.
Hmm.
right? So I got cut.
Mm,
Um, it wasn't until, and I was hurt, like super, super hurt. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
first time being cut, like going to a school. This was a prominent school that was starting to like send a lot of players D1,
Hmm.
like
Okay.
big schools like Gonzaga, Kentucky,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Northwestern, um, Michigan State, like big time, right? So
Yeah.
I got cut from that squad early on, and it wasn't until like halfway through the year that I ended up transferring, or after that year, I transferred to a different school called Dawson College.
Okay.
The reason why I transferred it because a friend of mine, or a good brother of mine and mentor, Peter Walcott convinced me to transfer because I
Mm-hmm.
was just kind of just going to school. I wasn't playing. Um, and they were getting ready as a coaching staff to move up to the highest level at the AAA level. And he
Mm,
convinced me to transfer to Dawson College. Um, Ended up playing there for 2 years. Um, at that time, super, super raw, not really polished. Spent a lot of time with him working on my game at the YMCA to kind of polish my game.
mm-hmm.
Um, After that, after my second year there, um, had a pretty big year. Finished all Canadian my second year. Um, Recruiting process after that, my dream, like I told you, was always to play in the U.S. But with the lack of exposure at that time, really wasn't really. I had a couple interests from some schools, but um, what really put it over the top for me, I ended up signing to Northern Michigan University. And really,
Mm-hmm.
what put it over the top was um, the guys that were there were from Montreal. So
Mm,
there were five guys from Montreal that were in Northern Michigan before I got there.
wow.
And so when I signed, I was the sixth person. So there were six guys total on one team from Montreal, And so the process was that, just with playing with them over the summer, working camps with them over the summer,
Mm-hmm.
um, really grow, having a bond with them, friendship with them. They kind of told the coach about me. He was able to come down. I did a recruiting visit, um, liked the campus. Obviously, new players that were there, so that was a level of comfort for me
Right.
going into somewhere new.
Mm-hmm.
In that process, once we started dialogue with the coach, had my visit, went down there, played in a scrimmage with a bunch of guys and that I knew, and it was real comfortable for me to play with them. So it was kind of an easy process. Once I knew they were interested and they offered, I signed, and that was it.
That's
Mm.
So
dope, bro. That's
yeah,
dope. Um,
And,
yeah, man. I think that's big that when you said, you know, five other guys were from Montreal. Like when you step on the campus, especially somewhere that's, you know, not home, and you get a taste of home, you're kind of familiar with some stuff. Um, changes the game really.
it
yeah,
So
does.
yeah.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were able to really school me coming in on things that I didn't know, things experiences that they went through,
Hmm.
kind of whether it's classes to take, what to do, not to do,
Yeah.
who to stay away from. Kind of like real big brothers in terms of like really steering me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if how you had what you had imagined in your head about what it was like playing college basketball. If going to Northern, did it, you know, meet that imagination? Was it a lot different? Was that even like the first time that you came over to the US and like hooped? Like got a lot of questions.
I mean, no, I by that time I had started to travel and do a couple tournaments,
Okay.
Mm,
mainly on the East Coast, Boston, New York area. Um, but in terms of college experience, I had an idea in my mind, but I had no idea what I was walking into. You know, you're
mm, mm-hmm.
leaving home. When I was going to those tournaments, I knew I was always coming back home. You know what I mean? When I was going to college, I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
this is it. I'm gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Yup. Hits
Montreal
different.
hits different, right? So Montreal to Northern, you're talking 15-hour drive. You
Mm,
know, so there's no. I knew if I went, there was no turning back. You know what I mean?
right.
Because there
Right.
were already stories of other guys from Montreal who went and didn't last a semester.
Dang,
They
man.
got
Mm,
homesick.
mm,
Um, so I was like, I always knew I was never going to be that guy. And then just being around, like I said, other guys who were from Montreal, it was already a piece of home for me. So it was a level of comfort. You know,
mm,
Right.
mhm,
Right.
when I got there, my idea of college, I would say it matched it, but you could never really prepare for being away from home for that long.
mhm.
Right.
And then all the other stuff
Yeah.
that comes with it, the academic demands and social demands and kind of learning to be
Yes.
on your own for the first time, you know,
Yeah.
trying to be organized and not having mom or dad or whoever to kind of run behind
Mhm.
or siblings, whoever. So
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
I would say it matched my
Yeah.
idea, but I was never really ready for it.
Mm,
Right.
mm.
It. I don't think anyone is really, unless you like cream of the crop. You know,
Right,
Yeah.
coming in ready to take over. But
right.
that freshman year, dog, is a different animal.
Mhm.
So what was that like for you? I love asking college athletes that question. Like, what kind of adjustment was that for you?
It was a big adjustment for me, I would say.
Yeah.
Because having to do things on my own, prioritizing. I would say when I was at Dawson before I went to Northern, um, there was a heavy focus for me. Like I did what I needed to do academically, but there was a heavy
Mm-hmm.
focus on basketball. just because I was like, I gotta do what I gotta do to get on the map and get a
Yeah.
scholarship. Or um, freshman year, um, man, I was crazy. So I did not take academics as serious as I should have
Mm-hmm.
my freshman year. So that was the biggest adjust. I did what I needed to do, right? But I wasn't really maxing out my potential
Right.
academically. I did what I needed to do to stay eligible. Um,
Yeah.
and funny, crazy story, funny story. My academic advisor, Lynette, um, called me in her office one day and like sat me down. So my recruiting visit, Lynette met my parents. So she knew, like, my parents being from the Caribbean islands, they were like, this is I was the first person in my family to go to college, so they knew how serious and how hard or how much my parents wanted me to succeed, right? So my freshman year, when I wasn't performing academically, she called me in the office and she threatened to call my mom on me.
Oh
She
dang.
like,
Can't
yeah, she
can't
threatened
call
to, she's
mama.
like, if you don't straighten up, I'm calling your mom, and that was enough. I was like, okay, I got it, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
That's like that. That's
but
like that scene in Glory Road, one of my favorite movies.
Glory Road.
When dude wasn't going to class or whatever, and his mom showed up.
right,
You remember
Mm-hmm.
that
right,
scene?
Yeah,
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 yep,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
That's funny. You need that sometimes.
So
oh
yeah,
yeah, oh yeah.
I needed it. I needed the kind of kick in the butt to kind of wake up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
One phone call from my mom, and it would have been rough.
Oh
The
yeah.
other the other the other biggest adjustment I would say was the early practices. So we practice at like 5:30, 5:36 in the morning. Um,
Yeah.
so doing those
Golly.
practices and having to go to class afterwards, and you know
Hmm.
managing homework and getting your meals in, and then hitting the weight room afterwards, and
Yep.
it was a lot.
Yeah.
Man, I
Yeah,
couldn't imagine that fight in the winter up in the UP,
Bro. And up there, yes,
dark
yeah. So if
outside.
you
yes.
know anything about if you know anything about the UP, the winters are crazy.
God.
Brutal. I remember we used to go up there and like it would be like like a foot or two more snow. The cold just felt a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Different.
Mm-hmm.
Ice sculptures everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
People
Yeah,
riding people riding what do you call it? Snowmobiles
Snow.
like it's bikes. I'm just like, yo,
yeah,
this is crazy.
yeah.
This is
They
crazy.
were on the snowmobiles. That's funny.
That,
I remember because
true.
we'd
That's
be in the
true.
hotel room.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd be in the
Yeah.
hotel room and all we would hear was like golly.
it's normal up there, man. It's
Wow.
it's normal.
Yeah, we were spoiled, bro. So this is
Yeah.
coming from a spoiled brat that went to Grand Valley. But
Yeah.
we'd be up there and we'd be like, "Is there any like name brand restaurants or like anything, bro?" I swear, whatever we ate, it was like a restaurant we never heard from.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
like, what is going on up here, bro? We were spoiled, bro. We were
Yeah.
spoiled.
Yeah. Yeah, we was.
But yeah, it's funny though because we joke about like we've talked about this before. Like we hated going up to y'all and to Michigan Tech because it took
Yeah.
forever. But then we never thought about how it was on your point of view.
Yeah.
Like that was
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
every day for y'all.
Yeah.
That was
God.
pretty much, unless we played Michigan Tech,
Hmm.
Lake State. We were always traveling downstate to play
Mm-hmm.
Grand Valley, Ferris, Saginaw, all those teams. You know what I mean? Finley when they were in the
Yeah.
league. Um,
Jeez, man.
Wayne State when they joined the league.
Yeah.
So we would leave. We would have to leave like on a Wednesday for our Thursday game, and we wouldn't get back up until Saturday, Sunday. You know
That's
what I mean?
tough, bro.
So
That's tough.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Them Ohio schools were even further south than we were, so those
they
are even
were.
Yeah.
longer.
That's all.
They
Yeah.
were. My freshman year,
Oh
Gannon was in.
man,
You remember Gannon?
Bannon's in
I remember
PA.
Gannon. There, yeah. Yeah, that's wow.
Gannon was in our league
Wow.
my first year. Yep. So that's a
Okay.
15-hour, 17-hour drive.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like that's equivalent to
Yeah.
driving to the West Coast almost. That'll get you to
Pretty
Denver.
Right.
I know
much.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like y'all go to y'all have a road game in Colorado and you
Right.
you driving there.
Shoot.
That's that's wild, bro. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so last question about really your story. If you could go back cuz you had a couple nuggets in there like you developed late you know you got cut and eventually transferred to school. So if you could go back like at the start of your career, what would you have done differently or what do you wish you could have done differently?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know if I'd change anything, honestly. The only thing I
Mm,
would tweak was probably earlier on when I just started off. I didn't really branch out. I kind of stayed in my own area. You know what I
mm,
mean? So I didn't really expose myself to or get exposure to different competition levels around the city. You know what I mean? I kind of just was,
right.
whether I was unaware or didn't really want to go, or it wasn't until later on, like until I started learning. Oh, there's some good ball over here. Let me go over there. Or I wish I would have knew that a little
Yeah.
earlier. And then maybe developmental wise, I could have maybe sped up my process. But I don't know if I would
Yeah.
tweak anything in terms of my journey where I went. I think everything happens for a reason, and I just, when I look back, I just feel super blessed of fortunate for number one even getting a scholarship from where I'm from.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it all really worked out when I look at the grand scheme of things.
No doubt. That's a great
Yeah.
way to look at it and I think it is very fitting for this conversation that we're about to have. Um that's a great mindset, you know, in your career cuz when you have the mindset of like, "Oh, like I wish I would have done so many more things differently. My career was a failure." Like that's how you slip into really some bad spaces, man.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um, yeah, man. So definitely want to use your expertise, bro, and talk about just mental health, particularly in sports. Um, so, what made you get into social work? And is that what you studied in your undergrad as well?
yeah. So I graduated from Northern with
Okay.
a bachelor's in social work, and later
Mm-hmm.
went to Grand Valley for a master's in social work. And
Yeah.
what really made me get into
Okay.
it was I just remember I knew going into Northern that I didn't want to waste any time with trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I know I just
Mm-hmm.
talked to a lot of people who like, hey, use your first year to figure it out. And I was like, that's just a wasted year for me.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
really, um, I don't really want to do that.
Hmm.
So I really focused on. I had a friend of mine who was in the social work program at a really really prestigious school back home, McGill University, kind of Ivy
Yeah.
League level. And he was in a social work program, so he would talk to me about what I wanted to do, and he kind of gave me an assignment to do one day, and it kind of mirrored social work, and he gave me some pamphlets and really sat me down and said, "Hey, this is something you want to do and you're interested in. There's different avenues, especially with what you say you want to do in your skill set. Um, you can really, you can go into this career path or go into this field, and if it lines up with what you want to do, then go ahead and do it. At least if you go in doing something and you don't feel like it's for you, then you can always switch afterwards. But he kind of always encouraged me to
Yeah.
kind of go and knowing what I'm doing. So
No doubt. That's
That's
good,
good.
man. You went in,
Hmm.
yeah, just kind of being proactive instead of reactive.
yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
dope. That's
Yeah.
dope.
yeah.
How do you use like your, I mean, everything really, your background, your education, everything. How do you use that, as a coach and as a trainer?
Really overall, how I use social work, I would say, is more so for me personally is interaction. understanding interaction, understanding people, human behavior, tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
um, trying to recognize or read body language a lot right now. Um, kind of understanding the psychology of the mind and how people think, and especially the different levels, especially if you're coaching or working with youth, kind of trying to understanding their mindset and how they think behind things. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest way and how I use it now, um, and just different approaches. I would say overall, especially initially, I wanted to go into counseling, um, and that was my first route of where I wanted to go, and kind of just branched off into different things. But I picked up things like with different jobs over the years. I mean, Wes and I worked together. There were a lot of life lessons, a
Yeah,
lot of life
bro.
lessons at the spot that we worked at.
A lot of crazy stories.
A lot of crazy stories.
Yeah.
But just learning how to navigate those kind of situations,
Mm-hmm.
working with, let's say, disenfranchised youth who have been through a lot in their life, and kind of knowing how to approach them based on the history of whatever neglect or abuse or whatever. So there's a lot of different approaches and different things that I've learned or picked up throughout the years based on like experiences that I've been through, in places that I've worked. So
Yeah. And I can see how everything you learn, man, like can really help you as a coach and like get
right,
through to the girls that you coach and
right.
Mm-hmm.
all the other people that you train. So, um, you personally, do you have any like stories that stick out to you, or like a time frame where you're like, man, I was really struggling with something and it really like affected my play or anything like that?
Yeah. So man, I think my freshman year, you know, kind of talked about the adjustment phase that I had, just getting familiar with college life. My grandmother actually passed away my freshman year.
Mm,
Um, I remember
sad.
feeling, and that was kind of around the same time that my advisor brought me into her office. You know what I mean? I just remember feeling like a void and feeling alone, even though I had people that I knew, um, that I considered like brothers and friends, and you know, um, it was just different because my family wasn't around. I didn't
Yeah.
realize until years later that I was probably going through something. And previously, how I always dealt with things was just kind of getting lost in sports or the work of the grind of basketball. You know what I mean? Kind of just
Right.
getting lost in translation of putting work in, and the
Mm-hmm.
basketball court became, I'm sure just like you guys, a safe haven for
Mm-hmm.
things that we dealt with. So I
Right.
didn't I didn't I didn't deal with it. I didn't deal with it because I didn't know how to deal with it. I talked to
Yeah.
my mom, and checking on her or checking on my family and stuff like that. But meanwhile,
Yep.
15 hours later, or 15 hours away, I was still dealing with my own stuff, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really recognize how it was kind of seeping in or affecting me,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
with basketball performance, or just academic performance, or not feeling like I was there for my mom at that time.
Right.
So that was kind of a rough time, um, for me, and like I said, I didn't really express it in an effective way. So I know it definitely affected my life overall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man. Yeah, it's definitely a lot to deal with, especially being so far away from home, man.
Yeah.
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 Like
Um,
that situation. Did you ever? I mean, can you look back on it and can you see times like where obviously that it was affecting like your play. I know we go we you I should say it more so like we use basketball and we use it as a place where we can like a sanctuary, but then at the same time
Yeah.
some of those situations it also can still affect your play even though you like out there trying to get your mind off of it.
yeah.
It did. I think I was just going through the motions for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think not that necessarily I lost a love for the game, but a piece of that kind of just went away for a little bit until I kind of like finally got out of that rut. I got out of that rut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I was showing up. I was still showing up to practice. Was I
Yeah.
giving 100% effort? I don't know if I really was. I think I was just kind of going through it a little bit, just kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
people recognized. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I finally got called out by coaches and teammates, and you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean. Things that I was normally doing wasn't doing.
Yeah.
So it was. I think
Mm-hmm.
over time it was kind of really really glaring to other people, and that's when I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you know, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not doing what I set out to do or promised my parents I would do, um, and I had to kind
Mm-hmm.
of address it. I think I don't remember what I did, but I remember doing. I think I just talked to my mom, and um, so my grandmother was living in Jamaica at the time too. So you know, you talk about distance, even more.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it wasn't
Yeah. Further.
until I knew my mom had went down to the funeral and stuff like that that I kind of started to feel that she was kind of put to rest the right way. So
Yeah. Some closure.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Like you hinted at, or like you said a few minutes ago, that basketball to all three of us um, was our safe haven, our safe place. But for me personally, maybe you guys experienced this too. Um, I wasn't careful with how I treated basketball. I think I really abused it with everything that it gave me, all the perks that it gave me. Then it became like a identity to me. Um, like basketball was my identity. It wasn't anything else I did or accomplished or myself as a student or a brother or a son, all that stuff. It was basketball. So that means I put a ton of pressure on myself. So what happens when your safe haven becomes the source of stress, the source of like making your life like a living hell when you're not playing well or your coach is giving you a hard time? Like that's a lot of what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you guys ever like experienced that before?
Yeah. Yep.
I know I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I have.
That's what I was trying to. That's what I was trying to get at in
It
that
almost
question because it's like, no, I was just saying it's like it is a double. It's double sided. It's your sanctuary,
hmm
but then at the same time, it could be like a place of just pressure or it's like crushing
right,
you. It's it's a lot of
exactly,
different negative things too that can be associated with your sanctuary, which is a positive place. So yeah.
exactly, exactly. And when you get to the college level, like we were at, it's a lot more pressure.
Hmm.
The purity of the game obviously is not as much as like the pros, but the purity of the game goes away a lot from high school and middle school because our coaches, their job was to coach basketball and that was their income. So
Hmm.
a lot of
right.
pressure on them. So a
Hmm.
lot of times they put a lot of pressure on us.
Hmm.
Like what I guess for you, Chris, like what kind of advice would you give to someone, to a player that's kind of going through that right now, that basketball or whatever sport they play is the source of the stress in their life? Like how do they fight through that and find a release somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I think great question. Like you said, it when the safe haven becomes the source of the stress. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
think even at an early age, you got to develop um, multiple coping skills or multiple releases. You got to have something else outside of the sport um, to kind of get away to. You got to have find refuge somewhere else. Um, and that
Yeah.
I think that's like a learning stage. It's really developmental. You got to be able to develop that
Mm-hmm.
even at an early age and recognize. If you don't have recognition to know that your safe haven has becoming the source of your anxiety, that's going to be a problem.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and you got to really,
Definitely.
really develop, I don't, whatever that is. You
Yeah.
know, snowmobiling if you want to go snow. You know what I mean? You probably can't do that on
Yeah.
scholarship, but you know, but anything, you know,
Yeah.
fishing.
Uh,
Who knows? Whatever it is, you gotta have something else that you can
yeah.
get away
Hmm.
with, you know, or get away to.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me, we interviewed a couple weeks ago Rob Carlisle, football player from GV.
Hmm.
Um, he said that he was lucky enough to have a lot of friends outside of football
Mm,
at GV. Um, and we're like, dang, like I didn't really think about like Josh did too. Um, so it's like when you're with people that don't play basketball or don't play the sport that you play, they're not thinking about it. So you're
right,
most likely
right,
not thinking about it too.
Hmm.
But like when you're hanging out with your teammates, you're most likely talking about practice that day. You're most likely
right.
talking about practice tomorrow or dang coach gonna kill us tomorrow. Like so yeah, I would say like find other people that make you or bring you to a different space as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's
Yeah,
definitely
most definitely.
definitely helpful.
I think just to add up, piggyback on that, like yeah, the UP was super cold, but the
Hmm.
one thing the UP had that was different for me coming from a big city, Montreal, to you know Marquette, Michigan, was like the outdoors, which I didn't really appreciate until later on in life. Um,
Mm.
Yeah.
later on in my career there, just having the outside and nature to kind of get to, and kind of that being refreshing, kind of appreciating
Yeah.
that more, you know, later on. So, like I said, definitely finding
Yeah.
something else that you can get to, and that's a you know that's great advice of having friends outside of the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, Josh? I know you introduced it to a couple friends. Shout out Nick,
Yeah. Pops.
Nate I. Yeah, all those dudes. Pops. Oh, Pops, yeah. Pops'
Yeah.
name is Nick too, right?
Yeah. They both was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um so what was that like for you when you were like with them and like how did that I guess do for your mental space when you're outside of hoops?
Man. Yeah. It was. I mean, like a breath of fresh air. I mean, obviously,
Hmm.
you love being around, athletes, and you love being around your team and stuff like that. But like you said, they don't know anything about that. So, you go
Yeah.
and you hang out with them. They might ask you about it, and then you might tell them
Hmm.
what happened or whatever. But in my case, they would immediately start joking around about it or whatever, or just be like, "Oh, all right, let's get your mind." They
Yeah.
literally would say like, "Let's get your mind off of it and let's go do
Yeah.
such and such or
Yep.
whatever."
Yep.
So yeah, it was just like a breath of fresh air, and then to see um, the things that they were doing that we as athletes just didn't have time for. They kind of
Hmm.
um, opened my eyes to some different things that I just wouldn't have been able to experience because your life is consumed with your sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So shout out
Man, yeah,
Pops.
that's one thing I
Nate.
wish yeah, Pops, man, he was cool, man.
Yeah, he was
So
funny dude.
Chris, his boy Pops was about to be our fourth um in our apartment. And let's just say that it was shut down
Mm.
because he wasn't a basketball player. I'll just leave it at that. But we were baffled, man, like, dang, for real?
Confused.
So
Confused.
Yeah, I already know.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
man.
Um, but yeah, bro. So for the sake of time, skip through some questions. But so if I'm an athlete in high school or middle school or even college, and I'm struggling with my mental health and I'm not aware of it, like what are some signs that I need to be looking for um, that will kind of tell me like, dang, I'm not good right now.
yeah, I think just based on experience that I've had, I think in being around and just being observing, I think first things first is going to come out. Obviously, internal feeling, how you feel.
Mm,
If you're starting to feel pressured in like normal everyday situations, like feeling anxiety about going to school or
Yeah.
exams or stress, especially if you weren't feeling like that before, that's probably a tell. That's
mm,
probably a tell-all sign.
Mm.
Um,
yep.
Secondly, how you treat people. If your relationships start to change based on how you're treating people, and not recognize
Yeah.
it, then that's probably a tell. Because middle school and high school relationships, you know, sometimes good, sometimes a little flaky.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
and I think that's one way you could tell. Obviously, academic performance. If you're a great student and you start falling off, you
Mhm.
know that's a sign as well. Um,
Yep.
and then if you have people in your life who are solid and you think you have really good friends and they start telling you stuff that they recognize, then that's probably a big sign too.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to them
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
What as a coach, obviously they're not trained, mental health, professionals, things like that. What should coaches, be doing to help?
Um, co- I think coaches wear many hats. Number one,
Hmm.
um, as much as we'd like to focus solely on basketball, especially me,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the case, man. I mean, there's always something going on, you know, and you
Hmm.
you can always tell for as a coach if you're observant, if if you just observe, you can always tell something's up, and not just the
Yeah.
basic like
Yeah.
having an off day thing, like oh man, something's really really going on, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
if you ignore it, it can get worse,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this day and age. And we haven't really touched on like the impact of social media on this generation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how how crazy you know things can get passed on, or the influence of
Hmm.
social media and all that stuff. It's a different generation now. So um,
Right.
Yeah.
coaches, I think, play an important role, especially if you're involved in a school. Um, Typically, all schools are equipped with counselors or social workers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think developing a relationship with those people and
Mm-hmm.
connecting them, especially if you're not comfortable with talking about certain things, you can always leave it up to the professionals to kind of do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely first resources within your school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Most coaches are former athletes, and I would it's safe to say a lot of athletes are feel like they can do it all, right?
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of coaches are probably like you said, wear a lot of hats. So not only you coaching, you're mentoring, you're giving rides. A lot of coaches are feeding kids, right? And then maybe trying to be that mental health counselor. There's nothing wrong with kind of delegating that, like you said, to the actual professional.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I'm a big believer, like you said, in kind of forming that bond with the school counselor, and even maybe asking that school counselor to come through to practice, a couple of times a week just to kind of
Hmm.
show themselves.
Right.
Um, so the like kind of like a chaplain, like me and Josh had
Yeah.
chap. Shout out to
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah.
Um, like he would just come to practice. He wouldn't want anything from us,
Hmm.
but eventually it was like this dude's like here like every day. He
Every day.
must like us or something. Yeah.
Right.
So we eventually just opened up to him and started kicking it with him. So
Hmm.
um yeah, but sorry Josh to cut you off, man. I don't know what you're about to say.
No, no, no. Yeah, I know we're running short on time. I was just saying,
Yeah.
I heard something that has stuck with me, with all the Ben Simmons stuff, and I think it
Mhm.
applies to coaches. Um, when you think of an injury, a physical injury, you have a trainer. They tell you like, all right, they're gonna
Yeah.
be out 2 weeks. you know. So the coach has a
Mm.
time frame. It's like, all right, he should be back. She should be back in 2 weeks. But when it comes to mental health, there's no, you can't put a time frame on it. You can't just be okay. He has a mental
Nah.
health struggle issue, so going to be out for a week. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You know.
Mm-mm.
So for
Man, that's so true.
coaches, just I'm probably more so talking to college coaches. You know, and the players too. To even though you might be have a little fear in you, but to communicate that to the coaches. It's like my brain isn't like my leg. You know, like I can't be like, all right, it's 2 weeks, I'm gonna be back. You know,
Yeah.
so it requires
Yeah.
patience.
Absolutely. No
Right.
doubt, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because the brain is a muscle too. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, you pulling a muscle, pulling a hamstring, and your head ain't right. Like I, I can probably play better on a bum ankle than my mind
Oh.
being jacked and not there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So for the sake of time, I mentioned briefly about the Chosen Academy. So these two guys, along with my sister, are joining me to really help with this stigma, with this issue. So the Chosen Academy will, number one, bring affordable basketball skills training to the inner city youth. So shout out to Ottawa Hills girls basketball coaches. They have invited us to work with their girls. So we'll be working with them this June. So we're very excited about that. But not only are we going to be helping these girls build their skills, but we're going to be sitting down with them and talking about mental health, educating them on mental health, and creating a safe space for them to be able to open up about things that they struggle with. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. Um, it is a 501c3 nonprofit. So if you have it in your heart to donate and give to this program, so we can, give these student athletes the resources that they need, man, we're open to that. But so speaking on the just open up and creating a space for athletes, what do you guys think would happen to teams if more coaches invited this type of space where student athletes could be more open and be more vulnerable with each other?
I'll let you go first, Chris.
I think, yeah, man. I think, shoot, just thinking back on my own experiences, I think it would, if everyone were to buy in, it would build a different type of camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
For one, um, you spend so much time together with teammates. You know, the countless amount of hours, um, that if you knew that someone else was going through something, and you can build a bond off that, or feed off each other, or help each other out. It
Yep.
would make the brotherhood or sisterhood that much more stronger, which could in turn
Absolutely.
help performance on the court.
Yeah.
Just
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I might go a little harder today, just because I know Wes is going through something, or Josh is going through something.
Right.
I'm gonna have your back, or coach is riding me a little bit more, and I know something's going on. I'm gonna try to pick you up. You know, I
Exactly.
think definitely camaraderie for sure,
Yeah.
and just trust overall.
Yeah.
Trust is everything, man.
Yep. Yep.
Everything.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think
How
that
about you, Josh?
I I immediately go to. I know we got a finals tonight. I immediately go to the Warriors. I'm willing to put money
Yeah.
on if we went in and examined how Steve Kerr and all them dudes run, a practice, a team, whatever. They have conversations
Yeah.
about this. That team,
Mm-hmm.
they seem like they love each other. Like they be yelling and stuff
Yeah.
at each other, and obviously Draymond and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Hmm.
I'm willing to put money on it. That Steve Kerr and them, they have discussions about things like this. They're open, and it goes
Oh
to
yeah.
what Chris says. It builds camaraderie, trust. Um, you feel like you have you gained a brother, and
Yep.
that is invaluable when it comes to obviously your life, but most importantly your life. But then talking about playing a game of basketball or whatever, I mean, it's a win or a
Yeah.
loss. It
Yeah.
changes everything. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Man, that's so true. Because when you think about the Warriors, obviously they've had the same core
Hmm.
with Steph, Dre, and Clay, and then Steve Kerr, of course. Dre or Kevin Looney's been there for a long time too.
Hmm.
But whatever players that they add to the team, like they had from their first championship
Harrison
to their back
Barnes.
to back, like they've had different cats. They
Hmm.
just plug him in and they
Hmm.
just kind of join the culture, bro, and they
Yeah,
just kind of
they thrive.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
So
Right.
yeah, culture. So we definitely want to help teams build a culture, you know, um, and buy into that. And I think that once once a team like once Ottawa Hills, their girls, when we work with them, and they buy into what we're doing, I think the sky's the limit for them, not just individual players, but as a team, and then in their relationships. So
yeah,
I'm super excited, bro.
yeah.
Super excited. Yeah. All right, bro. So for the sake of time, man, um, we got I gotta get showered and comfortable for this finals. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Big
who
game
do you?
coming up.
Yeah, yeah, bro. Who you got? Who you got in the finals? And how many games?
So this is tough, man. This is tough. I kind of seen these two teams colliding in the finals. Um,
Yeah,
just with the way Boston was playing, the way the Warriors are just, well-oiled machine. Um,
yeah.
this is tough because I want to see it go to 7 games. I got the Warriors
Yeah.
winning. Okay, I got the
Okay.
Warriors
Okay.
winning. Um, if healthy, I could see Boston pushing it to 6 or 7 games.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I can see that.
I think too much Steph, too much Clay, and then you throw in Jordan Poole party, man.
Yeah,
That
pool
dude,
party.
he, he's he just comes in and just plays his game. You know what I mean? He just adds a different element. You know. And
Yeah, true.
then shout out
Yeah.
to Andrew Wiggins, the Canadian,
Hmm.
who's playing stellar basketball right now,
Man,
the All Star. So
Yeah, bro.
I think
crazy.
they just have too many pieces overall.
Yeah,
I think it's just too much.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I
Hmm.
think this is Steph's time.
Hmm.
It's Steph's time to. I mean, for me, he doesn't have to win Finals MVP to like prove he's the player that he is. Like he's already showed that to me. But I think for most people he does. But yeah, I think he's just gonna feed and Warriors in six to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Warriors in six. Not much
Hmm.
more needs to be said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So NBA Finals, dog. Josh, hit him with that last question, and we can slide out.
Yeah. So, before you answer this question, you have to help us get this person on the show. Okay. So who should we have on the show next?
Oh man, that's a good question. Um, I'm trying to think. Am I the first international person on the show?
Yeah, bro. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you are.
I'm
yeah.
the first
You
Canadian
have
for sure,
20.
right?
This is yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back. Okay, well, try to keep that trend going. Uh,
Yeah.
international flavor. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I got two guys in mind that I could reach out to for sure. Two Canadian basketball players that I grew up playing with that
Hey, they don't
know
have
for
to
sure.
give us both the
Uh,
names. You can help them two people.
Yeah, bro. More the merrier.
a little pressure, man. First dude that comes to mind for sure is Maurice Joseph.
Okay. Michigan State.
Maurice Joseph played at Michigan State. Him
Mm-hmm.
and I played against each other. Um, Played at Michigan State, transferred to Vermont.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, a great career in both places. Got into the coaching ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Was a head coach at George Washington.
Oh,
Assistant
word.
coach, Richmond
Wow.
University recently.
Okay.
So just great basketball mind, great experience within the game of just being at the helm and just um, kind of could touch on a lot of topics that we touched on today. So he's definitely one of them. Um,
No doubt.
Second dude is my guy Jeff DeSato out of California, um, head coach, had a school there, high school there, and basketball trainer, has his own basketball training company, and does a lot of stuff with AAU. Started his AAU program out there. So another guy with great experience. Has done some training with Houston Rockets and John Lucas, and
Mm.
a lot of
Man.
experience basketball wise, and just I think his experience and his journey could definitely help out a lot of the viewers that you guys have. So um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, those
Well,
are two guys that come to mind for sure.
You heard it here first.
that's what's up, bro.
Jeff and
Yeah.
Maurice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, let's see if we can make
Yeah,
it
we love to
happen.
get connected with them.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure. For sure.
yeah, two great guys, man. Two guys that I admire. So
Yeah. Dope.
But,
Dope. Well, we appreciate you, C Dub, man. Thanks for joining the
mm-hmm.
show. Um, yeah, a lot of wisdom, bro. I learned a lot. I'm sure Josh has, and I know our listeners will too. So, um, man, the 21st episode of the podcast in general, but the first episode of the Chosen podcast
Mm-hmm.
with Chris Warner. It's a wrap. We'll
Yep.
see y'all next time.
yes,
Peace.
sir. Appreciate y'all, man.